up, people? What is up, people? What is up, people? It is MM2K here again with Jack Deslippe for another, numbers show for Stadia. Jack, how are you doing today, this fine Sunday?
I'm doing great. It's lucky episode number 7.
Yes. Can you believe it? It just seemed like
I
yesterday we just were talking about this show, and now we're in episode number 7. So great stuff,
right.
man.
I'm excited about the 2-year anniversary with this week. I'm not
Oh
not
yeah.
sure if Stadia themselves are planning anything, but there's
Mm-hmm.
some community things happening. I'm excited about the SBCN bash
Yes.
at the end of
Yes.
the week. I'm going to be doing a stream on that.
Awesome stuff. Yep. Yes, some neat stuff lined up, man. Can't lips are sealed, but we get just stay tuned this week, y'all. But right now it's all about these statistics. People have told me, Jack, they say, hey, MM2K, we love Stadia Dosage, but we really need some more Jack Deslippe and his numbers, and they were just at all last month at the mathematical wizardry they saw live on air. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shout out the chat, and then I'm going to shut the heck up because they're all here for you. All right. So first and foremost, we got our good friend Victor Del Maestro. Victor, hiya, what's going on, good friend? We got Mark's Alley. Good to see you. We got Anime Heshima. Did I butcher that? My apologies. We got Project Storm in the house. He says, here for the numbers. Let's go. We also got our good friend Wrong Yeezy makes a glorious return. Good to see you. Our good friend Enlad, also with some great statistics at hand, is joining us as well. And we also got our good friend Charles Aran. Charles, yo, yo, yo. And Christopher Torres is listening. Do us a huge favor, everybody. Let everybody know that we're live. Tweet us out. Go to Facebook, wherever you can. If you still got a MySpace page, go there. Go there, please. Let everybody know that we're live because we're about to drop some fantastic statistics. With that said, I am now turning it over to our... Oh, yeah. By the way, we are doing a raffle. We're doing 4 of them. We're giving away 4 $25 gift cards. And you guys should know how this is going to work. If not, we got visual aids to help you. To participate in our raffles, use !raffle in the chat. You must be subbed to the channel in order for it to work, for it to register and give you a ticket. So let's activate that right now, and we're going to pick the 4 winners throughout the show or later on in the show. All right, so let me save that. I'm going to start the giveaway right now. It should say so in the chat. I believe so. Hold on, let's check it out. So many screens. Yep, there it goes. It says, go ahead and participate right now. So go put an ! Raffle so you can get your ticket. And we are going to get ready. And I'm turning this over now to Jack. Jack, it's all yours.
All right, thanks. I saw that Mark Solly in the chat put !waffle.
I could go for some waffles.
That's the type of prize I would like to win.
Exactly.
All right, so yeah, let's kick things off. So we're gonna start with just some updates for the month. And one statistic that I've been sort of tracking pretty closely in this last week or so is the leaderboard growth on Dirt 5. So if you go into the game, you can go into the leaderboard and you can eventually see the bottom. I sort of have a trick to do that, but you can see that since it's gone pro, it's kind of taken off. And then I'm kind of kicking myself because I didn't really start tracking this until just the 8th of November. I don't think I realized that there was a leaderboard as part of the game. And so it's a little bit hard to see the history here. It was released, I think, at the end of March. So that's where we have the 0. And then the first real data point I collected here was on the 8th. But it's growing well over 1,000 names a day, which I think is pretty cool. It looks, its growth rate looks a little bit like Sniper Elite 4 last year, if you kind of compare the two. So the black curve here is the Sniper Elite 4 leaderboard from last year. and here's the Dirt 5. So it's not quite as steep, but things were kind of beginning to flatten out there for Sniper Elite 4 before like a bunch of events kind of turbocharge things. So if you actually look at the growth rate, unfortunately we don't have this like first day or like this first couple data points for Dirt 5 when it went to pro. Presumably it was higher than these points here. Then it sort of began to, as you might expect, over time began to fall, and then it kind of got boosted by a bunch of like positive news and the rollout to new countries and things like that we talked about on last episode. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Dirt 5 here. Interestingly, it seems like the growth per day here has been pretty solid for the first week that I've been able to track it. It actually went up a little bit. It's almost hit 2K per day, like on Saturday, Friday, and Saturday. Anyway, this is one that I think is pretty interesting. I'm gonna keep tracking this one on a pretty high resolution for the next couple weeks and just see how it evolves and see how big this leaderboard ends up getting. It'll be interesting to see if it passes the 100K mark here. I think this tells us a little bit about how many Stadia Pro players there are. I think there's lots of Stadia Pro players, of course, who this game just probably doesn't interest. Not everybody's into racing games and that sort of thing, but it is a kind of just an interesting number to watch. And on other leaderboards, I've been watching Crew 2 pretty regularly now. This is one that's never been in Stadia Pro, but it is part of course, the Ubisoft Plus subscription, and so you can see that it's still been growing pretty significantly. It's this would be the 70K line up here, so it's probably going to pass like 75K over the next couple months. It looks like this one is growing at about 100 names per day, depending on the day, maybe between 50 and 100 new players getting on the leaderboard per day, and I think that's pretty cool. It's actually been almost fairly linear over the course of the game's release, which kind of I think shows you the power of Ubisoft Plus and bringing in new people. Then another one that we kind of showed off, we started tracking last month, is the FIFA leaderboard, and there's I guess a few different leaderboards in the FIFA game. I've been using the seasons one because that's the easiest one for me to get on and track the overall size. And you can see FIFA 21 over time, and here's FIFA 22, which is looking like a sizable chunk of it. And of course, this one has never FIFA. I don't think either FIFA has had a free to play weekend. I know the Madden games have, but I don't think FIFA has. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But definitely I don't think FIFA 22 has for sure. So, these are people that have actually plunked down dollars to buy the game. And of course, this is just people who are listed on the leaderboard, not the total purchase count.
Good point.
Okay, so one of the things I think is sort of interesting is that games that have long left pro, some of them are still sort of growing, and it's interesting to see what those tails look like. If we kind of zoom in on this region of the tails, you can see that there are some games that are still getting played by at least tens of new people per day, or of that order, are still trying out these games sort of for the first time, getting on the leaderboard. And so one of those is like Rise of the Tomb Raider. And if you just look at the Expeditions leaderboard, which is actually probably a small fraction of the total players, you can see that there's still like 20-25 names getting on that leaderboard per day. Sniper Elite 4, we still see like somewhere between 10 and 20 new people per day, trying out the game sort of for the first time. And then here are a couple other ones. So these do seem to tend down. Like the longer the longer time period since they've left Pro, it seems like they tend down a little bit. So it's like Zombie Army 4 is a bit lower than Sniper Elite 4.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, and then another thing to look at is just the availability of games. And as we said last month, games just keep coming. And that includes both like really awesome indie games like Wavetail, for example, that came out this week. Having a lot of fun playing that one, as well as AAA games. One of the things I want to highlight here is that the number of games that like a new member who joined Stadia Pro would be able to claim this at this point in time has reached an all-time high. And that passed the past 40 this week with the release of Wavetail. So that's pretty. I think that's pretty cool. That's like a little bit of a milestone. We'll see if it passes 50. That might be worth celebrating if it passes 50 at some point. But that's cool. I mean, I think that's like a great value that a new Stadia Pro member would get right out of the gate.
Absolutely.
And I forget the number here, but this is something like 113 or 114, like the number that if you've been a Stadia Pro subscriber since the beginning, you would have claimed 114 or so games, which is about half the total library. I'm interested to see whether we'll hit the 250 mark maybe by the end of the year or early in the new year for total games in the Stadia library. Okay, so one new metric that I added over the course of the month was sort of inspired by you, MM2K. so you put out an analysis that I thought was actually really cool about the number of the number of top sellers based on what I think is it the NPD data.
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah, so that's US based sort of sales data, and you put out an analysis of how many of those top selling games were on these different cloud gaming platforms, and I was wondering, is there a way that I could like kind of regularly track that? And I had trouble finding the data for the NPD on a regular basis. Like I think you found the data from some tweets,
Yep.
but I did find this GFK data. I think GFK stands for Growth from Knowledge, which is kind of a cool acronym, actually. I like that. Growth from Knowledge, so rather than just like shooting in the dark, I guess is what they're getting at. And it's UK-based sales data, and so you can find this data. The link to the data you can find at the Stadia Stats website, but I think you can find it in a couple different places. And I kind of did the analysis, and they put it out every week on a regular basis that I can just grab. So that was pretty cool. And I think that what they publish is a list of top 40 games every week. And similar to your analysis, I actually found that a good fraction of those games are just like exclusives to certain platforms. Actually, most of them are Nintendo exclusives. And so of the, I guess I really needed some, let me do this in real time. I'm going to annotate this in real time. So this lineup here is the number of multi-platform games. So you can see that it's about half on any given week's top seller list is the number that are multi-platforms. And I think that is like, in some sense, like the peak that we should be looking at, because those are the ones that are actually like potentially coming to Stadia or GFN or Luna or something like that. The other, Nintendo exclusives are obviously not going to be coming. So then if you look at the number that are available on each of these platforms, you get this top line is actually Stadia, which is cool. I think it actually reached 10, a peak of 10 in the last week.
Awesome.
This next line is GFN.
Mm-hmm.
So second best. I think in this most recent week it had 7. And this last line here is Luna.
Yep.
And I didn't try xCloud because, to be honest, I was just having trouble figuring out which games are actually streamable on xCloud. But if anyone wants to help me out, I'd be glad to add that. And so, it's definitely possible that I messed up in the classification of one or two of these. So if anybody has any corrections, I'm happy to include them. But this is how my initial classification of this data goes. So it's actually kind of surprising that Stadia is is even higher than GFN on this list. So then go for it.
Yeah, let me add real quick to that, just to show the validity of this. Even though Jack said that he might run into a metric issue here and there, this is common across the board. And NPD, for those of you that are listening, is very great at being able to determine, particularly for plug and play platforms, which are going to be your most successful retail games. We saw a circular that came out this week about PlayStation 5 that showed the top games that are on being played on the PlayStation 5. 80% of them are on the NPD and on charts like this. So it's important for you to see this, not to say that one platform is better than the other. We may feel that way personally, but just to show you versus some of the rhetoric out there that, Stadia doesn't have any games that people want to play. When you bump them up against a lot of these charts, like our next NPD chart is coming out next week, when you bump them up against these charts, Stadia's on top. So this is something great that Jack is providing now via GFK that is going to really help in that discussion. I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm sorry, Jack. You can go ahead and continue.
Yeah, thanks. I think that one criticism that people have levied at this sort of sales data that includes multiple platforms is that it doesn't include some of the free games. It doesn't include games that were intended for one platform. Nintendo's exclusives show up just because Nintendo has a huge player base, whereas the Xbox exclusives don't show up because the Xbox player base is, while it's big, it's just not big enough to get onto these charts, I think. Yeah. So, a couple of people have suggested using the Steam data. So I went ahead and did that. And so as you might expect, so Steam puts out these daily stats of the top, the games that have the top player base over time. And you can see that as you probably should expect, GFN is the top here. I think it's got just over about half of those Steam games. Yep. Stadia, I think, had 13, and I think Luna has 1, if I classified it right. And again, I'm willing to believe that I've made a mistake on the order of 1 or 2 in these data and in these data points. Yep. But I do want to kind of point out that this is obviously something that favors GFN, just because this list contains a lot of PC and keyboard mouse games. It also contains a lot of kind of mobile-ish games that are actually already on Google Play for mobile stores. And then it doesn't contain things like games from other launchers, like almost none of the Ubisoft games are shown here. And then it also doesn't contain any data from consoles, which is sort of what Stadia is more like. So this is a kind of a list where, GFN's willingness to kind of just work on rebroadcasting Steam games, even if they don't have controller support, for example, really gives it an advantage. So I'm going to keep tracking this one over time. And, I think it's kind of cool that GFN has so many of these games And we'll see how we'll see how things evolve over time.
So target demo, and and this is a great chart to show if someone were to argue, oh, GFN doesn't have games for its target demo, where you can pull this up and prove the otherwise and say, well, in comparison to its peers, it does, and that's where the GFK and the NPD works. Where if someone argues, oh, Stadia doesn't have games for its target demo, well, its target demo is the plug and play demo, and when you show those charts, it's reverse. You know what I mean? So they're both doing respectively well for their target demos, I feel.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Okay, so another plot that we've been kind of showing over time here is how the Stadia achievement leaderboard sites have been growing over time. So this is one of like the cooler aspects of the community, I think. You can watch these like sites where people have to kind of manually register and then track their achievements, and you can watch these kind of communities growing over time. And there was sort of a milestone this month where Exophase passed 1,000. And Exophase is kind of cool because it not only lets you track your Stadia achievements, but it also lets you track your achievements on a whole bunch of different platforms. So you can track your Steam, your Xbox, your PlayStation achievements, all in one list, and you can kind of combine your achievements across these different platforms. So Exophase is definitely a cool site. So to put this number in perspective, I didn't show it on this plot, but like GOG, for example, has just recently passed the 2,000 mark.
Okay.
It looks like the Stadia community on Exophase is about half that size. And then things like Xbox and Steam, I think, were both in like the 30,000 range.
Oh, okay.
So we're maybe like 2 or 3%, or 3 or 4% of that number. So I think it's kind of fun to also watch these go up over time. And of course, Stadia Hunters is sort of like the internal to the community service, and it's the highest player in the space right now. Okay, so that kind of is the end of this monthly update on some of the numbers that we've been looking at and we think are sort of interesting to watch for the month. We're going to now move on to sort of like the main topic. And, one of the things I've said that I just like to do in the past is, I think it's just fun to kind of watch these curves go up and to the right. And, some criticism that we've gotten, and I think it's, it's definitely has validity to it, is that by definition, some of these metrics always go up and to the right. Like there's nothing else that they can do other than, add people over time. And that's true of sort of a number of the metrics, that like the review count of the app over time, or like the download count of the app over time. There's no way for it to go down unless there's been some correction or something, unless the Google Play Store decides some of the downloads were like fake or something like that. So sort of by definition, a metric like that kind of has to go up and to the right. So that's sort of one criticism that some of this data has received. And, I think what some people would like to see is instead of just like the total population, what is the actual like activity over a given period of time. And so I'm going to talk about some of the ways that we can sort of use this data to see that sort of thing. So I'm gonna kind of exit out here, and I'm going to show you some ways to use the tool in real time to see that. So, for example, if we look at this page here, which is showing the growth of various platform subreddits over time, you see a bunch of curves that go up and to the right. Actually, not all of them are going up. Shadow, I think, is dropping a little bit here. So it is possible for people to unsubscribe to a subreddit if they're no longer interested in it. But For the most part, you see all of these plots sort of going up and to the right. Um, but that's one of the reasons why I've added this sort of toggle here, where you can see instead of the totals, you can see like the deltas, or what I'm calling like the derivatives here. So like the slope of the curve by day, week, or month. And so if we look at it by day, now this is something that is a rate, or what you would call an activity. So for example, let's zoom in on this region over here for the last few months. You can see the growth of like the subreddit. Maybe we can scroll out a little bit. In terms of new members per day, for all of these different platforms. So to make it a little bit simpler, let's look at Stadia and Geforce now, and you can see the growth rate per day for these two platforms. And surprisingly, these have been pretty much equals for like the latter half of this year, the last 6 months or so. This is where maybe GFN has gotten a little bit of a boost, or a temporary boost, from the new tier, but then it's sort of settling back to normal. So we'll see. And so this is one way to see activity, is new people per day in the plots. And so we can also go to something like the download count. And let's look at Stadia here. This is the sort of Google Play app download count per day. And so by definition, this is no longer something that just goes up and to the right. And you would expect it to actually like have, here's last December and January, where it rolled out to new countries. You had big news from Cyberpunk, everything we kind of talked about last month. And then here we're now at like, a couple thousand days, the estimated download count. And it's pretty constant. We'll see if anything big happens here at the end of the year, or whenever new countries get rolled out. We might see some big spikes again. So that's one way you can see activity instead of just the totals in the numbers. So another way I want to point out is that we had a bunch of existing metrics that do talk about activity, just even without having to look at the delta. So if we go back here, I'll show you that we have this tab called miscellaneous activity, and there's a lot of things here, but I'm going to start off with some of the ones that were available from the start. So one is the number of people who have been playing Destiny 2 every day. There's a site that basically just tells you the population over the course of a 1-day period, and I've been kind of grabbing that data, and this is what it looks like. And you can see that right now we're basically at a point where 5,000 Stadians per day are playing Destiny 2. Yeah. It's sort of also interesting to look at how does this compare to other platforms, and so we have this metric here. So this shows you essentially the percentage of Stadians playing the game versus just PC players. And it's the number of Stadians per 1,000 PC players. There's just like a technical reason why I did it that way. But you can see that we're about 20 Stadians per 1,000 PC players. So that's about 2%. And it's kind of interesting to track this metric over time as well. Again, back in the December-January period, it had peaked at about 4%. And now we're 2.5%. We've also had a kind of another interesting metric that you can track, which is Stadia Source daily visitors. So I think Stadia Source has kind of cemented itself, I think, as like the main new Stadia news site for the community. And so Dan is awesome, and every day he puts out like the total visitors. And you can see here that it's been about maybe it was definitely a bit higher back again in January, like December, January. And then, we're looking at 2,000, 2,500 users a day. Actually, right now, because I'm only showing one curve, the zero here is not at zero. So actually, if I put this up, you can see the zero is now sort of down there. So that's a bunch of like these activity metrics that we were already showing. And then I just added a few others over the course of the last week. So let me show you those now. So those are some of those are also on this one page. So I'm just gonna reset this page. And so one is I went and looked at all of the Stadia blog posts that were put out, and I tried to capture the number of views that they had. And this is what it looks like. The views of those blog posts over time. And there's a couple caveats to this data in the sense that, some of these older blog posts have probably been like indexed by Google, and that might now come up as search results for certain questions people might be answering, trying to ask about questions about Stadia. So it's hard to say if they were like some of these old blog posts were this high when they like the week after they were released. But you can see there's kind of like a flat trend here with maybe a bit of an increase in this December, January timeframe last year. I can also look at the likes. I went and looked at the blog post likes as a function of time. And this one does maybe appear to be trending up a little bit. If I were to draw a line, it might look like slightly trending up. And I also tried to turn some of like the Twitter activity into something that we could measure. So if you look at the tweets from the Google Twitter account, how many, if you take the top tweet of the week, how many likes did that tweet get? You can see it's pretty flat, maybe a slight downturn in the last month or two. But this one is admittedly pretty difficult to interpret in a really sensible way. But I thought it was interesting just to try to grab it and just see what it looked like. And that's what you have. Another, I think, interesting one, I showed you the Crew 2 leaderboard growth over time, but I'm now just beginning to track. Yeah, unfortunately, you can see there's only 2 data points to track the number of people who are competing in the live summit, which is like a weekly event every week. And so I just have these 2 data points. But last week there was like 860 people who participated in the live summit. And so we'll see how this changes over time. This is sort of maybe like the equivalent of the Destiny 2 population or something like that. I mean, I guess lots of people play the Crew 2 without ever participating in this live summit. Is maybe the difference. So that's sort of the end of this main segment. I guess the point I wanted to make here is just that so I think some of the criticism about these plots and the fact that some of them by definition always have to go up and to the right. In some cases I think people are just wanting to pick on the data, but I think in other cases the criticism is valid. And I just wanted to kind of show different ways of getting at activity metrics and some of these new metrics that we've just been adding, that are kind of geared specifically towards measuring activity rather than measuring the total population.
Awesome stuff.
Okay, so I guess I'm running a little faster than normal this time, but we are kind of nearing the end, and so we want to jump, I think, right into the community member of the month this month, which is this month we're going to give it to Christopher Clay. I wonder if anybody,
right.
we can leave it out. If we can leave it out in the chat as a trivia question, what does this person do in the community? We'll see how many people know. Or do you know who Christopher Clay is? I'm sure that you know what he does, but I don't know if you know what he. Once I tell you, I'm sure you'll know, but I don't know if you know he's the person behind it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna keep quiet and let's see if anybody can figure it out in the chat. Who is Christopher Clay?
He's the GOAT. Mark Sally says.
The GOAT. Oh man, yeah, so many great people in this community.
Awesome. Lots of people know him. Yeah, so that's right. So Christopher Clay is the guy behind Stadia Enhanced. And so, I think this is like a perfect example of, a person in the community just stepping up to fill a gap. Lots of people have, wished for a while that like the Stadia web app had more features. Like if it told you the frames per second you're getting or the resolution, if it let you see more details about the games before you buy them. For a while, for quite a while, I guess Stadia's web app didn't have a search bar.
Yeah.
And so, what Stadia Enhanced is, and this is like developed almost solely by Christopher Clay, if I understand right, is ways to just kind of fill those gaps. This is the person who kind of stepped up and built this tool that tells you all this, gives you all these interesting information about your stream as it's occurring. It lets you change between like the different codecs that are possible in order to kind of maximize your own personal fidelity for what's being streamed to you. And it gives you just so much, just tons and tons of information about the games as you're browsing the library. Actually, one of our past community members of the month, Original Penguin, who does this amazing, who hosts this database of amazing, fidelity, frames per second, and resolution data for every single game. Yes. That's all being pulled in here by the Stadia Enhanced extension and shown to you every time you're browsing your library or the store, which is just super cool. So huge shout out to Christopher Clay. I think he's an amazing community member, stepping up to just not only improve his own experience, but just make everybody's experience in the community better. And if you haven't checked out the Stadia Enhanced extension, it's definitely worth it. And if I remember right, I think you've used this in the past to also do there's some new upscaling features as well, right?
Yeah, I love the upscaling, the post processing features. You can use it to kind of do like what do you call that? Super sampling, where you could set it to 4K, set the codec to VP9, set it to 4K, and even in a 1440p screen, you get like super sampling where you get all this enhancement and enrichment to the visuals, the output. So it's a heck of a tool, and like you said, Jack, this is just an example of one of the guys in the community that love the platform, that's doing the grassroots stuff that Google is known for when it comes to their products and their services. So congratulations to Christopher Clay. He deserves it more than enough. Right. So with that said, we're like Jack said, we're getting close to the end, and I want to remind everybody, if you wanted to participate in this raffle, now is your chance. You better hurry up and do it. Exclamation point raffle. Do that right now because we're about to pull our 4 winners for the $25
Awesome.
Google gift card. Yep.
Right. And if you can't receive a Google Play card for some reason, we can also do PayPal. But
Yep.
Since we've done a few of these now, I figured out how to give away Google Play credit in Canada and in most of Europe and things like that. So it usually works.
Right. So I think we're ready to. What do you think? We're ready to close up now, and start picking these winners. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. And
okay.
Maybe as you're beginning to pull, I'll just make a comment. So I skipped poor journalism of the month for for this month. I think this is partly in the spirit of just not trying to pick on people. But also because, I think that the Stadia community has been, I feel like having a really good month. I feel like there's just been a lot of positivity in the community. A lot of people just sharing interesting news. I will, though, in lieu of doing poor journalism of the month, maybe do like a pet peeve of the month, which is, I've seen a number of articles come out over the course of not just the last month, but really the last year that always start with like the word finally, like finally Stadia or finally company X does blah. And those always just make me roll my eyes because in many of those cases, particularly when they're talking about Stadia, they're talking about features that like no other cloud platform has. So for example, they're like Stadia finally allows players to like jump into other friends' games without an invite. And the finally there just always makes me sort of roll my eyes because I'm like, well, look at like Luna or look at Geforce now. There's no friends list, period.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, frankly, some of these features are, I don't even realize they're on other platforms like Xbox or PlayStation. But, is that something that the author was really like dying for? The ability to like look at their friends list and be able to jump into one of their games as they were playing without an invite? Like, it's not quite the existential lapse that I think they're trying to sell. So I'll put that out as my, it's not poor journalism of the month. It's just my pet peeve of the month.
Yeah. I think sometimes what happens is, and again, we to stay in this positive spirit because the mood in the community has just been fantastic. I think what happens is some people have their own individual gripes, and sometimes it might seep into the words that we write out. I'm kind of old school. I kind of like keep my emotions out of the words that I write unless I'm doing an op-ed. Like you go look at our GFN articles. You would never assume that GFN was not one of my favorite platforms to game on. You know what I mean? So just, let's just look and measure everything from a balanced kill and, kind of leave the out, you know what I mean? The out of it, Save those for the op-eds, you know what I mean? So, all right. Great stuff. Thank you, Jack, for that. All right, now it's time to pick the winners. We let you guys skate in at the last moment. We got a lot of participation, but I got to close it off. And boom, it's closed. Sorry, so if you didn't make it in, sorry. But however, there's always next month. All right, so now we're going to pick the 4 winners. And our first winner of the $25 Google gift card or equivalent is Igor. Igor, you are the first winner. Congratulations, Igor. If you could put a way in the chat that we can reach out to you and to give you your gift, like preferably, if you have a Twitter account, just give us your @ or you can give us an email or something like that. But definitely, please put something in the chat so we know how to communicate to you. But Igor is our first winner. Our second winner, Jack, is Amine Hachimi. I know I butchered that. Amine Hachimi, you are our second winner. congratulations again. Please put something in the chat like an email or a Twitter handle so we can reach out to you and communicate ways to distribute your gift or your winnings. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jack. What were you going to say?
I was just going to reiterate, definitely put like a Twitter handle or a Reddit handle or some way that we can contact you to to get you your winnings.
Absolutely. Yep. All righty. The third winner is Elknu Morphanamet. I can never get that full name, but Elknu, you know who you are. Elknu, congratulations. We please need a way to contact and reach you so we can give you your prize, man. Thank you so much. And a longtime supporter of the channel. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And last, Jack, but certainly not least, let's drum roll, please. Last winner is Crow Resin. Crow, you are our final winner of the $25 gift card. Please leave a way to contact you in the chat, whether it be Twitter or an email or something like that. We really appreciate it. All right. So with that said, I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard anything from anybody yet, Jack, but I think
I've been watching the chat. I haven't seen anything. I think I know how to contact Crow Resin.
Okay.
But the first three, I'm not sure I know. So if you're one of the first three winners, definitely
yeah, please.
Some contact information.
Yep.
Or else we're gonna have to draw again here.
Yeah, we're gonna need something. Igor's, he says, hey there. Okay, Igor's here. Cool, Igor's here. Yeah, put something in the chat and so we can see it. We gotta see it. A way we can ultra delay here. It said ultra delay. Okay. We'll give it another minute or so.
So Igor, what we need from you is like your Twitter name or something.
Yep. Okay, Crow Resin responded. Please put something in the chat so we can reach out to you. So while we're waiting for that to build up, just give it a few more moments. Chat, let us know what was your favorite piece of the statistics that we've given out today. Let us know. We can use it for future feedback and all that great stuff. And what's your favorite use? Let's do that too. What's your favorite use of Stadia Enhanced? Let us know. All right. Let me see. Elknu. Okay, Elknu responded. Thank you, Elknu. We got you. And then,
okay, and we also got Igor's Twitter now, I think. Thanks, Igor.
And the last one we need, Jack, is Amine Hashimi. Amine Hashimi's the last one. Amine,
okay, let's give him like one more minute to get in.
Okay, let me do Amine. They're still here. Amine Hashimi, you won. Let us know how to contact. Let us know how to contact you. I know it's a delay. Thank you. We appreciate everybody watching. We appreciate all of your support. We're so thankful of it. And okay, alrighty. Awesome. We got everybody. Now we have everybody. Okay. Carla said, I'll take Amine's. Hey, I can dig it. All right, we got everybody, Jack. We got all their contact info. Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you guys so much for your support. We can't do this without you. You make this a great show every month. And with that said, any closing remarks, Jack, before we get out of here?
No, I mean, maybe just a shout out to a couple different things going on. So yeah, definitely this week, check out the Stadia Bash Community Networks.
Yes.
Like two-year anniversary bash.
Awesome.
It's going to be, I think, almost 24 hours of streaming. I know that I'm sort of going to be late in the night Pacific time. And then actually maybe Ray is going to be even after me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then stay tuned for for next month's episode, and make sure you're subscribed to Stadia Dosage for all the doses that MM2K drops on a basically daily basis.
We got some more good stuff coming out. We got some articles highlighting some of the great stuff that we had happening last week. And the aforementioned NPD comparison. We got that coming out this week. We got some good stuff. I want to give one shout out to somebody. Just popped up on my screen now. I want to give a shout out to somebody in the community. Well, two things. First and foremost, if you like Stadia content and you don't know who to listen to, go to pntsnetwork.com and look for our Dosage Community Digest. It gives you a list of all of the great content creators throughout the community. And lastly, one of those great content creators goes by the name of Ready Set Stadia. I mean, this is a guy that you're going to want to keep your eyes on. He is really tearing up the scenes. He's gained, I think in only 2 months' time, Jack, he's gained 400 subscribers. So, I mean, he's really tearing.
We can check it out in real time here.
Yeah, check him out. Ready Set Stadia, great guy. Really enthusiastic, and he's really ready to, do some things for the community. I've had some side chats with this guy, and he's really making a mark just by some of the great content and some of the great ideas that he has. And Jack is pulling up his numbers real time. There it goes. So, yeah, he's doing some great stuff. So definitely check him out. Right? And
all right.
With that said, I think that is it. So we want to thank everybody for coming through. Appreciate and love all of you. And until next time, have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.